Assalamu alaikum. Hi everybody, welcome back, and thank you very much for all those people who have commented in my previous videos, and most of all thank you to all those who have subscribed. I certainly hope that I meet up to those expectations. Today I'd like to talk to you about how I let my family know that I was reverting to Islam and how they responded. It's an important video for some people who do have to face that challenge. It is a nerve-wracking experience for a revert because being accepted is one thing, and making a change, such a dramatic change in a life, people do get concerned as to how their family will react and treat them. So I do hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So who am I? I'm the rebel of my family. I'm always the person who's going to try new things. I'm always the person that's going to take on a challenge. And when people would tell me, you can't do it out of just sheer of my own ability, I do like not so much to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself that I can do it. And this is what earned me the title of being a rebel. And this started off pretty young age. So me converting to Islam wasn't a sudden shock for my family. I think they expected it because it's something that I would do or I would take on to try first. So my family, my stepfather was an army officer, and he's been in the army since he was 16. So he's been in there now for about 40 odd years. So growing up in the military, we were transferred every 2 years to new schools, new homes, new countries, and alhamdulillah, I got to see the world, which is absolutely fabulous. But they were strict in the home. So for example, if my bed wasn't made the right way, they would come in and rip the sheets off and tell me to do it correctly. Always had room inspections, and meals were always done in a regimented way. So for me to being the rebel was, I got disciplined and grounded quite a lot. So funny that I did leave home. Okay, I'm gonna admit, I left home when I was 16 because my family told me that I couldn't do a particular thing, and being the rebel that I was, I wanted to prove to them that I knew what I was doing. And obviously I don't encourage that, and looking back now on my life, I find myself, alhamdulillah, apologizing to my family for putting them through that. And alhamdulillah, my family were forgiving and loving, and of course we all have a relationship now. So once I had moved out of home, and I married and divorced my ex-husband, I had a family with him, and things became settled after my divorce. Living a single life, or a single mum, to my family, they thought that it was going to be a struggle for me, and they were always there and they were always supporting. And then when I did start to do some research on Islam, they had already been implanted in their head about what social media was saying about Islam. Obviously about September 11 and all the terrorist attacks and Al-Qaeda, and so an imprint had already been put in their thoughts, and that worried me, and that really did concern me because they had such a negative outlook on Islam. So I wanted to tell my family, and I wanted to tell them the right way, with as less negative impact as I possibly could. And that's when I made some inquiries with a very dear, close personal friend of mine who is practicing Muslim. Now, the advice that I was given was this, and this is the advice that I want to forward on to any other revert who wishes to tell their family that they're either thinking about converting or they have reverted to Islam. And if you feel that they're not ready to hear about it, but you want to make it as less of an impact, listen to this advice. Now, the advice is this. People don't like change at the best of times. And people don't like it when change happens and it affects them personally. They don't understand why somebody wants to change when things in their life seems to be going so great. So to change somebody's opinion, you need to change yourself first and prove to them that a change is necessary or a change is a positive thing. Reverse the negatives into a positive. So how can you reverse a negative into a positive? The easiest way to do this, especially when you're wanting to let your family know that you've converted and that it is a good thing, and that is by changing yourself little by little, making subtle little changes according to Sunnah, and applying that into your everyday life. People can see positive changes in you and they will start to think, oh, there's something different about you. What is it? And some ideas are of this. So let's look at one thing that we can change about ourselves. One thing that I did personally myself and everybody should be doing anyway, and that is I changed the way I listened and spoke about other people. And this is called backbiting. Okay, so my family would constantly argue over what so-and-so had done. They would always talk down about them and put a negative thought about a person. And this is really important part of your change as a revert. So let's quickly look at an example of applying not backbiting in a conversation and how that affects people in the way they think of you. Okay, so if somebody is having a negative conversation about somebody, the ideal way is to try politely removing yourself from that conversation so that you don't hear it. But if you are so engaged in it and you can't get away, put a positive comment or statement within the conversation. Try and reverse it into something positive. So let's look at the fact that somebody is complaining or talking about a lady who got their hair done the other day and they don't particularly like it. How do you reverse that? By saying to them, well, I don't think it's that bad actually. I think it quite suits her. She deserves to have a good change in her life, and I think a hairstyle is a fabulous way of doing it. One last example that I have applied myself before telling my family that I had reverted, and that is this. Family dinners. We know as persona not to overfill our plates, right? And not to leave food behind. Really, this is bad manners anyway. But be conscious of it when you are sitting down at the table. Make sure that what's on your plate is what you can eat. And then always compliment and thank the person who has prepared the meal. And do this before you start eating, and then do it again at the end. You may already do it, but you may not consciously be aware as to how much food is on your plate or how much you left on your plate at that same time. So use this continuously, and people will start to see the positive changes in you. So now came the time for me to tell my family. I was very nervous and I was still very scared. I still didn't know exactly how they'll take it, but I knew that it had to be done because for me, it was time for me to start wearing a scarf. So the first person I contacted was my mum. So all my family, they all live interstate, so I have to do it via phone. The first person, like I said, was my mum. I said to Mum, you know how you said to me the other day that I seem a lot more settled in my life? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, there's a reason for that and I wanted to share that with you. I said, Mum, I've been looking into Islam. And she was confused and said, why? And I said, just something that I wanted to do. And I said I've been reading up a lot on Islam and the way of life and the perspective of life and how to live. And I've been applying that to my life to see how it goes. And I said, and my life is settled and I feel so much better about myself. I said that I know that Islam is my religion, and Mum, I'm going to be reverting to Islam. My mum was quite naturally scared for me. The first comment she said, oh, you're not going to be wearing one of those black coverings, are you, where we can't see your face? And I said, that's called the burqa, Mum, and no, I won't be wearing that. But I have been thinking about wearing a scarf. And she said, why on earth would you want to do that? Now, this is my second advice that I want to give you. Before you tell anybody that you're doing it, make sure you have the answers for the questions that they probably will ask you. So my mum is asking me, why am I going to be wearing a scarf? Now, because I had the knowledge prior and I had an answer already in my head, I was able to deliver that and settle my mum's worry and concern. Now, once I had told my mum, everybody else was easier to tell. I went for the first person who has most impact on my life, and alhamdulillah, that's my mum. So telling her was the hardest, but it turned out to be the easiest. Now, as life went on, I continued to change my ways. I wore my scarf, and my children started to see positiveness in the sense that I was less angry. I handled situations a lot more calmly. They enjoyed the festivities within Islam, and they enjoyed watching me change because they loved me so much. Now, changing people's negatives into positives does have a dramatic effect on their life, to a point that when my children saw me change for the good, subhanallah, 2 of my children took it upon themselves, by themselves, came up to me and said, Mum, I want to revert to Islam too. I want to be a Muslim. So, alhamdulillah, I now have 2 of my children who have reverted and are born Muslim, and I know myself that the changes that I made was that positive that people can see it, and they have taken it upon themselves to become Muslim. So, so the proof is in the pudding, really it is. So I am going to leave it there for you today. I really do hope that I've helped possibly answer some questions and also allowed you to see a little input into my life as to how I was able to tell my family about Islam and how much better person I am. And that is really, really important, to show people how much better your life is because of Islam. And I'd like to pray to Allah that may He make it easy upon anybody else who's about to tell their family. And I pray to Allah that your journey remains strong and firm. And I pray to Allah that He keeps you all blessed and all happy. And Assalamu alaikum. This is Khadijah. Thank you for watching.